through the Science of Mind magazine for March of this year. I saw a few interesting articles, and finally I settled on this one. It's actually part of a larger article, so it's an extraction from it. So here it is. It's by Karin Willmer. I don't know Karin Willmer. I don't know anything about her. But oh, anyway, it's called "Seeing in the Dark: The Flow of Coming and Going," and this is from the first part. And she says, "One frosty winter before I had a child clamoring in the back seat, my first husband and I trekked 604 kilometers, that is 375 miles, from Kelowna, British Columbia, to Calgary, Alberta, to visit his family. The estimated drive was about yes, the estimated drive was 7 hours, not including any stops along the way, and our plan was to do it all in one day. When we got toward the Rocky Mountains, everything went smoothly. Good tunes, new snow tires, cheap gas, and boy with the confidence of a rudimentary emergency kit in the back. Just the two of us on an open road. Perfect. And then we hit this place called Field. Fog cocooned the car. We knew the road was straight, but we were driving blind, inch by inch, relying on the tailgates ahead of us like Rudolph's nose. My mind went into analysis overdrive. Did we really have what we needed? I think we forgot about food. And what about water? These were the days long before people began packing water bottles to walk around the block. Prepared? Maybe not much so. For the next 35 minutes, all we could do was drive inch by inch. We had no choice but to trust. And then she calls this next part the checking times. She says, life is like that. Sometimes we have bumpy rides. The journey doesn't always offer a clear path, just as we might imagine. Suddenly, for whatever reason, the flow of life appears to reach an abrupt halt, and we're left gasping for a spiritual jump start. These are what I think of as the checking times, when we get to remind ourselves of who we are at our core. What internal resources do we have? Combined in the foggy moments, what we had was determination, a goal, some measure of sensibility, and above all, confidence that we together could get through anything. We did. Internally, there was no fog. We knew our destination, and time was not a factor. It would take the time it would take, and we would, without question, arrive. And so we did. In the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes wrote, quote, undoubtedly, we are surrounded by and immersed in a perfect life, a complete, normal, happy, sane, harmonious, and peaceful existence, but only as much of this life as we embody will really become ours to use. On this drive to the Canadian Rockies, we chose to embody the experience, rather than allowing the experience to define us. In our own way, we went with the flow of what was in front of us. Love led the way. I chose this because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, I like the story because it tells us that, when we have the internal resources that we built up through practice, mental practice, spiritual practice, even intellectual practice, that when we have built up a strong inside, that we know deep within our core that we'll get through whatever is thrown at us. But the second reason I chose it was because it used a story to tell the message. And this story was about them driving through the Canadian Rockies, getting stuck in fog, starting to wonder if they had all the resources, but then realizing that they had the internal resources to get through all this. So I like stories because, as I've said many times, facts tell, stories sell. So what am I selling here? I'm selling that you do your spiritual work. You do the groundwork, and that's prayer work, and I would say meditation. Judging from yesterday's reading, remember, it was about balancing intellectual and emotional intelligence. And the fact that when we practice emotional intelligence, we practice the building blocks, meditation, mindfulness, and so on. We're actually strengthening our intellectual intelligence. So I like stories that tell a message. And this says to me, when you do your work, you can get through pretty well anything. And then the quote from Holmes, what does it say? It says, effectively, that we can enjoy as much in life as we allow ourselves to do. In other words, God presents all these resources to us, but we can only use as much of them as we believe that we can actually use. So I thought it was a pretty good message. And anyway, it's another break from the environment, but I will get back to the environment. I'm probably going to summarize these things. And I chose as an affirmation, I choose to embrace life. I choose to embrace life. It's a pretty short reading. I didn't want to read the whole article because it's 4 or 5 pages. So I thought I'll take an extract. And she did it in a really cool way, actually. Karin Willmer, she actually split the 5 pages into different segments so that you could actually take one segment out and use it on its own. It was pretty cool. So the whole thing makes up the whole article, but each individual piece has got its own story and its own message. So tune in to Reverend Lisa tomorrow morning, 9:15 on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. Tune in to me wherever you get this message because it will be available on that channel tomorrow evening, and hopefully 5 o'clock will work out. So that, folks, is my offering for today. I'm an engineer. I believe in Occam's razor. The simplest solution is usually the best. Yes, I'm a minister, but I'm usually not all that long-winded. Once I really ran over at a Sunday service, but by and large, I'm pretty much on time. So until next time, namaste.